After living in Panama for several years, I've heard a lot of complaints about life here. And honestly, I've said a few of these myself. Let me be very clear before we start. I love my life here, and I have zero regrets.
Action! I like action. Stay with me in Panama.
But Panama is not for everyone, and pretending that it is helps no one. So today, I'm breaking down the real reasons people struggle after moving here. Not rumors, not Facebook fear-mongering, but the patterns I see over and over again. Some of these may be deal breakers for you, and that's okay. So in no particular order, here are 15 reasons you should not move to Panama if you can't deal with the following. Hello, my name is Aisha. I travel the world with cerebral palsy, sharing the real side of expat life, honest travel tips, and my journey towards multiple citizenships. At 46, I left my career as a utility director and moved to Panama. 31 countries and counting, I'm proving life abroad has no limits. 1. You think Panama will solve your problems. This one isn't specific to Panama, but it's one of the biggest reasons people struggle after moving here. If you believe moving abroad will magically fix burnout, loneliness, debt, depression, or deep dissatisfaction, pause. Panama can give you space. It can give you perspective. It can even remove certain pressures that made life feel overwhelming back home. But it won't fix your life for you. Yes, moving here can ease some issues. Lower day-to-day stress, a slower pace, more acceptance, or some financial breathing room depending on your situation. But the challenges that require self-work don't disappear just because your scenery changes. If you're burnt out, you still have to learn how to rest. If you're lonely, you still have to build community. If you're in debt, you still have to manage your finances. And if you're unhappy with yourself, that work still has to happen, wherever you live. Your problems don't disappear at customs, they travel with you. Living abroad can be a powerful reset, but only if you're willing to do the internal work alongside the external change. 2. You're leaving the USA to escape politics and the USA. During my scouting trip here in 2021, I saw a Confederate flag. It caught me off guard for a moment. It seemed out of place, and I didn't expect to see that here. I haven't seen one since, but the experience was eye-opening. And it leads to a broader point. If your goal is to escape politics entirely, I have a bit of a rude awakening for you. Any country with a large U.S. expat population will carry loud American political opinions, from Democrats, Republicans, and everything in between. People have left the U.S. because of just one president, or they didn't like the direction the country was heading in. They leave because of values, culture, policies, fatigue, and long-standing frustration that spans multiple administrations. Those conversations don't magically stop at the border. If hearing American political debates abroad irritates you, this may not be the escape you think it is. You might overhear a heated discussion at dinner, at a bar, or at a social gathering. And honestly, I found myself pulled into these conversations more than once, and now I'm intentionally removing myself from them. And if you're leaving the US to avoid a certain type of American, trust me, they're here too. Moving to Panama changes your environment, but it doesn't erase people, opinions, or ideologies. If distance from US politics is what you're looking for, you absolutely will find less of it here, but not none of it. And if you're concerned about the influence the US has on Panama, you can watch this video where I have a discussion with a Panamanian on that very topic. 3. You expect English to be widely spoken. If you expect people to speak English and feel frustrated when they don't, you're going to struggle. This is a Spanish-speaking country. English is not the default, and no one here is required to cater to you or accommodate your comfort level. Yes, you can find English speakers, especially in certain neighborhoods, industries, and expat-heavy spaces, but that doesn't change the reality of daily life. You still need to be honest with yourself about your expectations, and more importantly, your willingness to adapt. You'll hear some people say that you don't need to speak Spanish, that learning a few basic words is enough. And for casual interactions, maybe it is. But real life doesn't always stay casual. How far do hola y cómo estás take you in an emergency? Will basic phrases help you explain pain in a hospital, understand a police report, or advocate for yourself if something goes wrong? Language becomes critical when things are stressful, emotional, or urgent. You don't need to be fluent overnight, but maybe you do need to be committed. Because the more you rely on others to bridge that gap for you, the more limited and dependent your experience here can become. Adapting to the language isn't about perfection, it's about respect, safety, and autonomy. And if you're insistent that English must be spoken, that expectation alone can become a daily source of frustration. In that case, Panama may not be the right fit for you, and that's okay. But it's better to be honest about that up front than resent the country for being exactly what it is. 4. When "why do they do it this way" drives you crazy. If you struggle with things being done differently, not worse, just different, Panama will test you. Paperwork takes time, sometimes a lot of time. Mañana doesn't always mean tomorrow, it means when it gets done. And many processes here do work, just not in an American hyper-optimized way. If you're used to Amazon Prime, speed delivery, precise appointment windows, instant confirmations, and perfectly aligned systems, this country will challenge your patience on a regular basis. Things often require follow-ups, in-person visits, copies of documentation you didn't know you needed, and a willingness to wait, sometimes more than once. You may do everything right and still be told to come back another day. For some people, that slower pace becomes freeing. For others, it feels inefficient, frustrating, or even disrespectful of their time. Neither reaction is wrong, but you do need to know which one you are. Living here requires flexibility, humor, and the ability to let go of control. If you can't, or if constant friction around systems drains you, this part of life in Panama can wear you down quickly. 5. You're not okay with bureaucracy and bringing copies of everything. If you're not okay with bureaucracy and the unspoken rule of bringing copies of everything, Panama will test you. Almost everything involves paperwork, stamps, copies, extra steps that feel unnecessary if you're coming from a place where systems are streamlined and digital. If that sounds like torture instead of just an adjustment, you need to think twice. I'll give you a real example. When I had to update my address with immigration, I brought copies of everything: my lease, my utility transfer, my residency paperwork, all of it, and I'm glad that I did. The immigration officer told me in Spanish that he couldn't read my address on the lease and asked me why the copy wasn't clear. He gave me the lease back and told me to come back another day. Instead of leaving, I showed him exactly where the address was clearly listed on the lease, and then I pulled out additional paperwork showing the utility had been transferred into my name with the same address. Because I had copies of everything and was quickly able to respond in Spanish, he accepted it. I also gave him a copy of my Panamanian disability card just in case there was going to be an issue. Had I not, I would have been told to leave and come back another day like he tried the first time. This is how things can work here. It's not personal, it's not hostile, it's just the system. And sometimes the system rewards preparation. If having to over-document, advocate for yourself, and anticipate what might be asked sounds exhausting, this part of life in Panama can wear you down quickly. But if you learn the rules, bring copies, stay calm, and understand that processes work differently here, things usually work out. 6. You can't handle infrastructure outages. Power outages, water shutoffs for system repairs, internet disruptions. They don't happen all the time, but they do happen. And when they do, they can be inconvenient or disruptive if you're not prepared for them. I once had a friend visiting who lost power in the middle of an important Zoom meeting. The building's generator kicked in within seconds, but her immediate reaction was, "Ugh, I can't deal with this third world infrastructure." In that moment, I knew she wasn't ready for life here. Not because something went wrong, but because of her reaction. Most interruptions here are usually planned or quickly resolved, but they still require flexibility. For example, during a scheduled maintenance at the water treatment plant, my building ran through its emergency water storage and had issues switching back to the city supply. Another time, the building had pumping problems and we dealt with a sporadic water supply for a couple of days. Now, none of this was dramatic, but it was inconvenient. Living here can mean thinking ahead. I always keep bottled water on hand, and I fill my water filter on my counter daily. You learn to build small buffers into your life so minor disruptions don't become major stressors. So, if you expect uninterrupted power, constant water pressure, and flawless connectivity at all times, this will test your patience. But if you can plan ahead and roll with occasional interruptions, it becomes manageable and just part of daily life. Accessibility. This one is especially important, particularly if you're disabled, aging with mobility issues, have a chronic condition, are prone to injury, or are thinking long term about where you want to age. Panama has excellent health care. Doctors, specialists, hospitals. I've personally had very good experiences here. But accessibility, that's an entirely different conversation. Sidewalks can disappear without warning. Curb cuts aren't consistent. Ramps exist until they don't, or they're so steep they're unsafe to use independently. Accessibility here isn't standardized in the way many people from the US are used to. It's often situational, improvised, or dependent on the building, the neighborhood, or even the day. Because of that, you have to move through life more cautiously. I'm constantly scanning ahead, sometimes half a block, looking for hazards. I walk looking down more than forward, but look forward to be able to look down. I plan routes carefully, and there are times when I ask for help, whether it's getting in and out of boats, navigating uneven terrain, or dealing with unexpected obstacles. If you need predictable infrastructure, consistent ADA-style accessibility, or the ability to move through public spaces without having to constantly problem solve, this adjustment can be exhausting. That said, the adaptation is possible. With the right mindset, thoughtful housing choices, and willingness to ask for help when needed, life here can still be very full and rewarding. But this is not a small consideration, and it's something you have to think through honestly before making the move. 8. Your finances aren't in order. If you're not good at budgeting, this may not be the year for you, because the cost of living is rising, and Panama is no exception. After living here for a few years, I can say clearly rent has gone up in certain places, food prices has gone up, and certain services cost more than they used to. If you're not living below your means or you don't have a financial cushion, Panama can go from an affordable dream to a stressful reality very quickly. Let's be honest, affordability alone is no longer a solid reason to move here for many. Some people are openly complaining about rising costs, and some have already packed up and left. I've seen people underestimate emergency medical expenses, the true cost of getting settled, sudden flights back to the US for family emergencies, or a remote job that changed or disappeared overnight. Panama can still be very affordable, but only if you come with a plan, discipline, and a financial strategy. 9. You expect dating here to be the same. If you think dating abroad will magically fix being single or lonely, you may be disappointed. The dating culture is different, expectations are different, communication styles are different, and language can be a real factor. Even if you're both trying, things can get lost in translation, especially when it comes to emotions, boundaries, or long-term intentions. That difference can be exciting or frustrating, depending on how open, patient, and self-aware you are. There can also be income gaps that people don't always talk about. If you're retired or semi-retired and financially stable, and the person you're dating is still working full-time, possibly earning a local salary, that dynamic can matter. Who pays? How often do you go out? What does splurging even mean to each of you? And if you're younger and semi-retired while your partner is still working, that can create a different kind of imbalance. Your days may be flexible while theirs aren't. You may want to travel, relax, or move at a slower pace while they're still tied to a schedule, responsibilities, and limited time off. Now, none of this is a deal breaker, but it does require honest conversations early on. Dating abroad isn't better or worse, it's just different. And if you're not prepared for those differences, especially around language, money, and lifestyle expectations, it can feel more isolating than you anticipated. 10. You're uncomfortable with visible inequality. Parts of Panama are modern and developing, often existing side by side. You can walk past luxury high-rises, rooftop pools, and five-star hotels, and within minutes see people struggling to meet basic needs. That contrast can be jarring, especially if you're not used to seeing wealth and poverty in such close proximity. If that reality makes you deeply uncomfortable, This transition can be emotionally tough. It's not something you can ignore, and it doesn't disappear with time. This is part of daily life here, and it's something I still struggle with. Living abroad doesn't just change your address, it challenges your perspective, your values, and how you see your own privilege. For some people, this contrast becomes a call to learn more, give back, or engage with the community in meaningful ways. For others, it can feel heavy and unsettling. 11. You expect the expat community to be one big happy family. Yes, the expat circles here in Panama are strong and extremely supportive. But if you think every expat here will automatically be your people, think again. Panama's expat community is not monolith. It includes retirees, digital nomads, families, entrepreneurs, short-term stayers, long-term residents, and people at very different stages of life. Some people are welcoming and supportive, others are territorial, cliquish, or deeply set in their ways. Politics, money, race, age, lifestyle, and even how long someone has lived here can quietly shape who gets included and who doesn't. Some people find their community quickly. Others feel overlooked or even blackballed, especially if they don't fit neatly into existing expat groups or narratives. And that can be surprising because many people assume moving abroad automatically means instant friendships and built-in community. And it always doesn't. You have to be intentional. You have to try different spaces. And sometimes you have to accept that not every expat space is meant for you. Finding your tribe takes time, and it may not look like what you expected. 12. You can't handle the climate. There are two seasons, rainy season and dry season, or as we joke in this city, hot and hotter. Humidity at times can feel like a constant, which can lead to mold. Mold here is something you actively manage, not something you think about once, especially for those who live closer to the water. And it's something I dealt with when I first moved here and have been diligent with ever since. If you need 4 distinct seasons, love crisp fall air, or feel physically drained by heat and humidity, Panama can feel like a constant battle, depending on where you live in the country. This climate can impact more than just comfort. It affects your energy, your wardrobe, your home maintenance, and even your mood. You may run air conditioning more than you expect, dehumidifiers become essential, and you learn quickly that ignoring moisture comes at a cost. Some people adapt and eventually thrive in it. Others never do. 13. Noise bothers you. Panama is lively, full of culture. There's honking, not always out of anger, sometimes just communication. Fireworks can happen at random times for reasons you may never fully understand. And if there's a World Cup game, a baseball game, a major football match, or a national celebration, you can forget sleep. This kind of noise isn't occasional. It's woven into daily life, especially in certain neighborhoods. It can be joyful, communal, and full of energy, or it can feel overwhelming if you're sensitive to sound. If noise stresses you out, disrupts your sleep, or affects your nervous system, this will wear on you quickly. It's not something that easily fades into the background for everyone. Some people learn to embrace it or choose quieter areas to live in. Others never fully adjust. And there are some that just love the noise. It's not right or wrong, but it's something you need to be honest with yourself about before making the move. Heck, I'm a light sleeper and I sleep with earplugs every single night. 14. Trash. You may see more trash here than you're used to, especially in certain neighborhoods, along roadsides, and in some waterways. There are cleanup efforts, community initiatives, and people who generally care about protecting the environment. Progress is happening, but it's uneven, and in some places, the problem is still very visible. For many newcomers, this can be jarring, not just because it's unsightly, but because it raises bigger questions about infrastructure, education, and environmental responsibility. If seeing trash regularly is something you struggle to mentally process, it can start to weigh on you. Not once in a while, but daily. It can affect how you feel walking around, how you view your surroundings, and even your overall sense of peace. Some people channel that discomfort into volunteering or advocacy. Others, they just never fully adjust. 15. Police checkpoints make you feel uncomfortable. If being stopped at routine police checkpoints, sometimes with officers carrying large weapons, makes you feel anxious, Panama may not be for you. These checkpoints can be common and are typically related to traffic enforcement, license checks, or a broader public safety effort. But if you're not used to seeing armed officers in everyday situations, it can feel intimidating at first. I'll be honest, they were alarming to me in the beginning. It took time to understand that this is simply part of how policing looks here, not an indication that something is wrong or that danger is imminent. And eventually I got used to them. More than half of the time, they don't even ask for my ID. But for some people, that adjustment may never fully happen. Living abroad means adapting not just to new systems, but to different visual and cultural norms around authority and security. Panama is an incredible country, rich in culture, history, and opportunity. But it requires flexibility, patience, and a high level of self-awareness. This move will challenge you in ways you may not expect. Not everything will work the way it did back home, and not every day will feel easy. But that doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means it's different. If you can adapt, stay curious, and approach the experiences with humility, you can truly thrive here. If you can't, or you're just not ready yet, this move can start to feel heavy very quickly. And there's no shame in either outcome. I want to give a special shout out to the channel members who have supported the channel and to those who have donated via Buy Me a Coffee and PayPal. Your support means more than you know. Gracias! Until next time, watch this one up next. And remember, the world is yours. You just have to find your place in it.